Where's the pulse of the conservative movement? Plus, all you need to know about CBDCs. Let's talk about that. Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show. Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on The Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you live from our BNT studios here in lovely Eastern Indiana. Today, we're turning to the show. Clay Clark is joining us with Aaron Antis. We're talking about the pulse of the conservative movement, plus all you need to know about CBDCs. Clay Clark, Aaron Antis, welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
Brother, I love your intro. I just want to add something to it.
Yeah,
it's the music, what I wanted to do at the end of it, and I'm not asked. Brian didn't say, please give me feedback on my intro to how to make it even better. It's hard to because it's already a perfect 10, but this is what I feel like needs to happen. It's like yeah. Like at the end, because it's just that's kind of the energy. It feels like the energy of like that. Doesn't it feel like Guns N' Roses in their prime?
I hear that.
Oh yeah.
Clay, I'm going to have you re-record the yell. We'll include that in the intro going forward.
Seriously,
okay?
I will do it if you send it to me, and you can air it or not air it whenever you want, because it was so hot.
I love it. All right, gents, let's dig into the fun stuff, which, is it fun? Is it scary? I don't know. CBDCs, Clay, you've been on the show a couple times. We've touched on this in some detail, but I know this is just peeling back layer of the onion after layer of the onion. What is this whole CBDC talk, and why should your average American be concerned?
I'm going to give you 5 things to look up, everybody out there, and assume I'm crazier, that I've hit my head on a blunt object or something. Okay, so one is you got to look up MIT CBDCs. MIT CBDCs. MIT CBDCs. What am I saying? MIT CBDCs. That's the MIT has developed these central bank digital currencies. They don't hide it, Aaron.
I thought you were going to say you hit your head on a toilet seat and you came up with a flux capacitor,
which is what makes time travel possible. Yeah. Now, second is MIT developed the quantum dot.
The quantum dot. Now,
that is a technology that stores your medical and financial records under your skin. Look it up, folks. MIT quantum dot. Look it up, folks. Again, MIT CBDCs. Third, this technology, it's manifesting, it's completing, it's reaching its fruition, it's getting to the apex of introduction. It's getting ready to be introduced to the world, and it's called Quant.network. You know, like Quantum Dot, Quant.network.
Sounds like a quantum mania going on.
Quant.
A little bit, yeah.
Wait, that was a movie. I'm sorry.
Network, a recent movie, too. Nothing to see with it. Yeah. Okay, and then the next issue you have here is that MIT was funded by Jeffrey Epstein and Gates. Now, I just want to ask you something here, Brian. This is your show, but I have a question for you. Imagine that you had a show and you had a guy named Jeffrey Epstein on, okay? And you're like, so, Jeff, you know, what's been going on? And Jeff
Who didn't kill himself, by the way.
There you go. But let's just pretend hypothetically a guy like you was interviewing a guy like him, okay, for whatever, and you didn't know quite what he was all about. You just thought he was a philanthropist, okay? And imagine that you said, well, Jeff, what have you been up to? And he said, well, you know, I put a temple on my island, you know, to pray to Satan, you know, and I'm just trying to get through that, you know, and the perpetual charges of pedophilia has really slowed down the production of my temple that I built to dedicate to Satan. I mean, you would say, I think we're going to go to black here. We're going to fade. We're going to go. We're
waving a few red flags. Yeah.
Then imagine you're like, oh, let's go to our next guest. So now you got Bill Gates. You're like, so Bill, first off, Bill would be going, but you're like, Bill, stop that. No, Bill, what's going on? And Bill would say, well, you know, we're making mosquitoes, a lot of mosquitoes, trying to put those out there. We're wanting to force, you know, people to put the RNA-modifying nanotechnology shots in their body. And primarily, my main thing I'm working on right now is, I'm excited about this one, is my spiritual advisor, Marina Abramovich. You know, she openly prays to Satan. She's praised by, you know, Lady Gaga, Jay-Z, and she, you know, spirit cooker, praise Satan. We're going to feature her during the Microsoft Easter commercial during the lockdowns. You know, that's what we're doing. I mean, you'd go, we're done here. That's who funded MIT. Yeah. Who made the CBDCs?
Well, he's also the guy who says he wants to reduce the population to 500 million globally, which would be
don't talk about facts.
I mean, that'd be one in 16 people would still.
You're just talking about facts, and people don't want facts; they want feelings. No. Thing, yeah. Now, so you got that. These are the things, and then you got the final couple things to know. Okay, is that BRICS? That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. That's 41% of the Earth's population. Yeah. They're now joined by Saudi Arabia. By the way, that's the petro that gives the petrodollar its value. Iran, Turkey, Now France wants to join.
Saudi Arabia.
Venezuela. And now you're talking about 70% of the Earth's population is wanting to team up to introduce the BRICS currency, which is a gold-backed programmable central bank digital currency based in Shanghai, home of the forced organ harvesting. Imagine that on their China commercials.
Oh, yeah.
Travel to China, home of forced organ harvesting. Hopefully it's not you that we harvest an organ from. But that's who's going to be in charge of the new development bank based in Shanghai, China, that will control the programmable, expirable central bank digital currencies. This is a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's happening.
And Trump, even in an interview with Tucker Carlson, he said, well, what happens if this whole thing happens and you have this de-dollarization? And he said, game over. It's game.
He said it's the equivalency of losing a world war.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think that we are right on the cusp of it, and most of the world doesn't even know. Here's what it is. World War III began a while ago, and nobody really even knew that, we've started a war. People aren't paying attention to the fact that the war is not being waged like it would have in World War II. We didn't have, soldiers, dying because there's bombing going on in Pearl Harbor or anything. This is a different kind of war. It's fought with different weapons.
And more death, by the way.
These are financial weapons.
More death.
Anywhere that you have great poverty, you have great death. And we are headed towards great poverty in this move.
Think about this. No shots fired through a gun like you would think. Right.
Different
but
kind
now
of
it's
shots.
a different kind of shot. COVID-19 shots, more death. Brian, a lot of information there, but at least there's nothing concerning going on.
Nothing wrong in the slightest. Everything going according to plan. Is it a plan? I guess that is being answered on today's episode. Let's go back to the implications of CBDCs, because I think for your average person, when they hear this, it sounds so like just high in the sky, not really something to be super concerned about from the layman's perspective. But how does this impact your average person?
Great question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let other people that are not as obscure as myself chime in on this. Okay, so we're going to go with Catherine Austin Fitts, and she was on an interview and she said, she was asked the question, how do these snap into place? That was the question. How do these CBDCs snap into place? How does that work? And so she lays it out there. I want people to listen to what she says. Again, this is Catherine Austin Fitts, very respected investment banker. Here we go.
You put up three sides of the corral. How do you snap that last part of the corral in place with CBDCs and vaccine passports? You don't say, oh, we're snapping a control grid in place because we want to take away your assets. We want to take away your freedoms.
The important thing to understand is central bank digital currencies are not currencies. It's a financial transaction control grid. If you don't behave, you can have your money turned off.
That's how it works. And that's the thing. And I just don't think people grasp the idea of what is going on. And you were asking at the intro, your monologue, you were talking about the conservative movement.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be gross, but I think it's kind of funny. If somebody were to say, what is the state of the conservatives' possessive individual movements? I would say, I don't really know. I don't want to ask. I'm sure some are having a movement. I'm sure some are constipated. Some are having a movement. Some are having a lot of movement. Some are not having enough movements.
Yeah.
But the average movement, I don't know. And but I find the tour it's kind of that level of uncomfortability when you ask somebody like, so are you having regular movements? I mean, that's just a weird place to go. You don't, right? Is that weird? I mean, am I weird?
That's a weird place to go.
No, just test it out. Next time you go somewhere and you like to, you go out to dinner with some nice people in town, just ask them, how are you? How's the movement? And they go, what do you mean? I mean, how's the movement? How's the movement? How's it going? And they're going to go, no, what do you mean? You go, no, how's your conservative movement?
They're going to go, it's been going great. You want to see some pictures?
No,
some video?
So it's a little bit odd for me to ask the question sometimes because people are so jacked in their worldviews. So let me walk you through, okay? So you have one group that's like, bro, let me tell you something. The white hats, they're in control. You know how I know this? I know this because only 3/4 of Americans have taken this RNA-modifying nanotechnology shot that causes myocarditis. And thus, the patriots are in control. And I go, you mean under your plan, we want to maim, injure, and or kill 3/4 of the U.S. population? They go, it had to be this way. It's the only way to wake up people. The only way to wake up the people is to kill the people. And I'm like, what? You watching too many Van Damme movies? What are you doing? I mean, the only way to kill the people. And they kind of talk like that, and they type like that on social media. The only way to wake up the people is to kill the people. And you're like, what are you saying? The white hats are in control. Now, I know all the white hats.
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron, on the tour, we're backstage.
Yes.
We're backstage with like Kash Patel.
Eric Trump, Kash Patel, Devin Nunes.
So you saw this at the last event. You were there on stage. We said, Devin Nunes said, Clay, please let anybody at your event ask me any questions.
Oh, yeah.
So a guy gets up.
Held the microphone for
you
everybody
did.
to ask him.
The guy gets up and he's like, well, I want to ask you something now. Are the Patriots in control? You know. And Nunes is like, I would love it if we were, but it appears not to be. The next question is, now tell me about the quantum financial system that's coming online that Trump's been working on, you know? And we're streaming to like millions of people and doing this. And he's like, I don't know anything about that. Cash is like, I
never
don't know about.
We're not doing that.
And then the next question is like, what about devolution? The guy in line.
Yeah.
Great guys. You know, they don't know. He's like, what about devolution? And the faces that Devin was like, Clay, you want to answer that one? And like Nunes and the Cash is like, you want to answer? Because
Cash actually said, I am not the same last name Patel. It's a different person.
Okay. So did he say that?
That's what he said. Yeah. That's a different Patel.
Okay. So all I'm saying is that like, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people that just don't know what's going on, and we want to have positive things. That's one part of the movement. You know, again, I feel awkward talking about this, but the second part of the movement, they are just having a glorious movement. I mean, these people are just rushing. They're just rushing right now into just irrational action. They're going like, what we need to do is we need to repeal the entire state I live in and build an island. No, I mean it, though. There's a lot. No, I mean it, though. They're like, we're going to just abolish our entire country right now, and I'm going to build an island right now. You're like, you live in a landlocked state. Well, I'm going to the middle of the lake. I'm going to the middle of the lake.
There's going to be a moat around
us. Brian, I'm sure you've never met these people. I'm sure, Aaron, you haven't either, but there's people that are like that.
Oh, yeah.
So one group is like they want the white hats in control. The second group is wanting to like build their own state real quick.
Yeah.
People that I mean are openly advocating for that kind of thing. I'm serious. And then there's another group that's like, do you think that Mike Pence is a good guy? No, I'm serious. And I'm like, you know, the same Mike Pence that certified a fraudulent election. They're like, yeah, I know, but I mean, do you think that a DeSantis Pence ticket could get it done? Yeah. And I'm going, what?
Yeah, those are the people.
So those are, in my opinion, that's like 2/3 of the conservative movement. Those three groups, in my opinion.
I'm going to give you a different conservative group
based upon the group. Based on who that's 2/3 of, not all of them. That's 2/3 that I have met.
I'm in the boat of not in the boat because I'm not going out on the island with those people. But but I am of the thought that here's the movement that I'm a part of. First of all, the only one that I want to make happy in this world is God.
Okay.
And if I stay on his side, I'm on the right side. And what's happening right now is there's this war of narratives.
Yep.
There is the 5G warfare, as General Flynn talks about quite frequently, wrote a great book about it. And here's what's happening. People didn't recognize truth when they were hearing it. So we've listened to all these politicians over the years, and we thought they were being truthful with us. We thought that they cared about everything that was going on in our country. Right. We thought that they were on our side.
We thought they were on our team.
But then COVID happened, and all of a sudden we went, maybe all those people weren't on our side.
Maybe those weren't brownies.
Maybe they were lying when they were speaking. Maybe there was a whole pandemic that happened. So all these things are happening. And my thing is, if you listen to what God says in his word, that is the ultimate truth. And you recognize when there is truth and untruth. And I think the people who follow that are going to stay the most grounded right now. And I think that's the movement that I want to be a part of.
And that, by the way, that's the final third. Is people that are grounded in the word of God. So again, I mean, you know, I could give you a little pithy tagline I've been working on, which is, you know, start a movement, join the movement, or just have a movement.
How about be a movement?
Be a movement. Be a movement. But no, seriously, there's the group that knows God And they see through it all. So they go, oh, yeah, that's Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 through 18. That's called the mark of the beast. That's where you can't buy or sell without the technology. By the way, this is in the Bible. It's prophesied. So there we go.
Yeah.
And or people will go, no, this is Matthew chapter 24. We're living through this war, rumors of wars, famines, pestilences, neighbor against neighbor, iniquities abounding. We're aware of that. That's Matthew 24. I'm nothing new here, folks.
Exactly.
A group of people, they go, transhumanism, that's Daniel chapter 2. I pick up on that. By the way, hyperinflation, that's Revelation chapter 6, verse 6. Oh, the Euphrates is drying up. That's Revelation chapter 16. Yeah, I'm aware. Oh, the false prophet. You're in 1 Timothy now. That's exciting. I see Christians pick it up.
Yeah,
but non-Christians are like, oh
yeah, it all looks very scary. I remember when COVID first started, and you talked to me about, hey, you want to come on the podcast
and have a movement
on there with me and have a movement, and I was like, well, yeah, what I'm seeing out there in the world is I'm seeing this weapon of the fear of death is being used over all of humanity. So
hey there, folks, Brian here. So for whatever reason, as we were wrapping up our conversation here with Kenny and I, my microphone died. And Kenny is just so good at knowing me, he was able to actually respond to not being able to hear me for whatever reason. So unfortunately, the end of the episode ended up being a little disjointed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play the responses that Kenny would have to what he thought I was saying, which he actually did a good job, but also including those audio clips. And I'll go ahead and wrap things up as we get towards the end of the episode with my actual outro. See you there.
It does. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now I have another question for you, Clay. I recently saw over on the YouTubes, I think YouTube somewhere, I don't know where it was, you interviewing Jim Caviezel in his brand new movie, the Mel Gibson movie. Talk to us about that interview and what that movie is going to be talking about.
Well, let me just say about Jim Caviezel. First off, Jim Caviezel is a great man. Other things you need to know is the child sex trafficking industry. This is gross. Is a $38 billion industry, as reported by Redacted and other credible news sources. To put that in context, the airline industry is $22 billion. Let me try again. The airline industry is $22 billion, which is a big industry. I mean, this isn't like the snow cone industry. You go, snow cone industry is huge, man. There's like $1 million a year coming into my business. No, I'm talking about the airline industry is $22 billion.
And think about how many people use the airline industry.
That you know.
Yeah. And now you're talking about something that's nearly double.
$38 billion. That's the child sex trafficking industry. So Jim Caviezel, who, by the way, had the courage to play the role of Jesus Christ in the Mel Gibson movie Passion of the Christ, which resulted in Jim Caviezel not having no movie opportunities, no opportunities to act in movies, despite having just created the most successful film in box office history. Interesting. Right. So he has teamed up here with Tim Ballard. Now, Tim Ballard, who's that? That's a guy that rescues children. That's what he does. Yep. And so Tim Ballard, he is telling his story. And that character who plays Tim Ballard in the movie Sound of Freedom, coming out July 4th, is Jim Caviezel. And Jim Caviezel had the courage to come on to one of our programs and talk about adrenochrome. And it was gross.
Yeah,
it was gross. Which, by the way, that is a drug made from the harvesting of adrenaline of tortured people. The whole thing's gross. And then Mel Gibson, this is a statements of fact. I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up just because I want this to happen. So Jim shoots the movie. He came to the Reawaken America tour in 2021 to announce the movie. The movie wasn't released because the big Hollywood studios didn't like it, didn't want it to come out because it would expose many of these people who are in that industry. So Mel Gibson teams up with him, and Mel Gibson worked on the final edit with him. So, the movie Braveheart starred Mel Gibson, directed by Mel Gibson, written by Mel Gibson, produced by Mel Gibson. This is how Sound of Freedom is. So Sound of Freedom, Mel Gibson got in the editing floor and began working in the studio with him to produce this. And then Mel Gibson now is also doing some behind-the-scenes work. I'm not going to say executive producing, but there's a 4-part documentary series coming out about this child sex trafficking situation that he's also involved in. So you have that going out. So you got Sound of Freedom on July 4th. You got the Mel Gibson new series coming out. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. And Brian, so much so that it may cause your listeners to have a movement.
How many $1 billion again is that industry?
Billion.
38 billion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
It's wild. Well, Clay, Aaron, we are unfortunately hard pressed for time, which means final thoughts for us today. How would you guys want to tie this nice episode up with a bow here at the end as we wrap things up? And obviously, where can folks go ahead and continue the conversation if they want to reach out?
Well, if you go to timetofreeamerica.com, that's timetofreeamerica.com. You can join Eric Trump, Laura Trump, Don Trump Jr. We've had Jim Caviezel on the stage, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Kash Patel, Roseanne, Jim Brewer, Sean Foyt, praise and worship leader, Peter Navarro. And our next one is August 25th and 26th in Las Vegas, Nevada. August 25th and 26th, Las Vegas, Nevada. It'll be an inside, enclosed, air-conditioned facility. Most people are staying at the Trump International Hotel, and you can name your price to attend. You can name your price. That's timetofreeamerica.com. Someone says, can you say it faster? It's timetofreeamerica.com. Someone says, can you say it slower? It's timetofreeamerica.com. Have a movement.
Have a movement indeed. Folks, if you enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor. Go ahead, give it a share. When you do, please tag yours truly. And also, please go ahead and give Clay and Aaron some support. And if you want to help reawaken America, the Reawaken American Tour, we will go ahead and include that link in the show notes. And by the way, folks, you want to continue the conversation with yours truly, find me on social media, Twitter and Facebook at B Nichols Liberty. And if you are joining us here on YouTube, well, hit that like button and a notification bell so you miss a single time we go live. And of course, hit the subscribe button, but just in case, because obviously what we talked about today, the elites do not want us to talk about. So go ahead and support us over on independent media, Rumble, and Ben Swan's Sovereign. And you will catch today's episode over on Sovereign before anybody else as a Sovereign exclusive. So go ahead and join us over there. But with that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for Clay Clark and Aaron Annis. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.